The two speakers in today's symposium, let me tell you a few words about them. Atul Pokhral is a postdoc fellow at Brown. He has been working on the political and social economics in different systems, and he has been a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda and Vedanta. So he has been coming here for some time and was very closely associated with Vivekananda retreat in Ridgely Manor, upstate New York. So last time when I saw him, I thought that we should utilize his knowledge, his talent to illumine us about some aspects of Swami Vivekananda's teachings in the field of social science, how to, he looks at society. And he very kindly accepted, in spite of really his hands being quite full, as usually postdocs, fellows, their hands are kept always full by the university. So, but I'm thankful to him for accepting our invitation. And Pamela D., she has been a wonderful devotee and a very nice speaker. Most of you, I am sure, have heard her speak from this podium quite a few times, and every time people appreciated how nicely she has presented the gist of many very difficult themes to understand. And I am very happy that she too agreed to speak at this symposium. So first I will request Atul to begin his presentation. Atul Pokhral.
I'd first like to express profound humility and gratitude to be asked to speak, and in this way make an offering of an intellectual leaf on Swamiji's birthday. So there's a basic difficulty in remarking on those who are highly regarded and to whom many pin their faith, or to whom people ascribe certain ideas and not other ideas. Nevertheless, it's largely held by many people who are very accomplished in religion, in sciences, the arts, business, and politics, that Swami Vivekananda was an extraordinary talent. Indeed, his talents and abilities seem only to have increased as he grew in years, especially, it seems, from the time that he became the disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. While the spiritual side expanded and manifested, so too did his social and material views change and progress, as his lectures show. For an example of this, consider he must have felt very differently about poor people before he spent a long period of time wandering and begging as a monk, and after this prolonged period of wandering and poverty. So he was also a social visionary who applied his ideas of Vedanta to social problems. And it's one of these that I would like to talk to you about here. In short, his material views reflect this growing and unfolding understanding of this underlying unity, of which he was aware and became more profoundly aware over time. One of his concerns was specifically with respect to this idea of the individual and society, or oneself and others. He would speak of all responsibility of good and evil being on oneself. But then at the same time, he would also say to live for others is to. And one way to approach this that might be helpful is to look at his influences. Of course, Sri Ramakrishna was a major influence. But let's imagine him wandering through the streets, a bearded monk with a stick in hand, begging, and carrying 2 books. Do you remember what those books were? One was The Light of Asia, the life of Buddha. Another one was The Imitation of Christ. The Bhagavad Gita was probably in his memory. He probably had memorized that already by then. But the difference that he saw between the preachings of Brahminic Hinduism and the Vedas at the time, as they were represented, and these ideas that were expressed through these books of Christ and Buddha, was the idea of service. So he proclaims very strongly, it seems, that if it should make no difference to you what you do, you've reached this point of indifference, you're a monk, you've attained high realization, but to others it does make a difference what you do, then why not take that into account? Why not serve? So, thus one of Swami Vivekananda's main contributions might be to give an example of how to learn, grow, and to change our ideas in line with certain basic principles, but in the direction of awareness rather than clinging to changing interpretations of truth. So overall, he held that physical freedom, mental freedom, and spiritual freedom were non-negotiable, as they say these days. The questions at heart seem to be, what can you do for others, and what can you do for yourself? So there's an unevenness that Swami Vivekananda is aware of, it seems, in his writings. One is this unevenness across people in physical strength, an unevenness in wealth, an unevenness in intellect, an unevenness even in spirituality, or the claim to spirituality. And this unevenness gave some the privilege of imposing their will on others. And it was this privilege that Swamiji didn't take kindly to, it seemed, in his writings. And at the same time, to counter this, there was the idea that the potential in everyone is the same. And then a third idea that connected these was the interdependence. And in his lectures on Karma Yoga, he speaks about this doctrine of the phases of life, and particularly focuses on the householder, which we come back to in a minute. So, privilege might be different, but the potential appears to be the same. So let's think for a moment about where we ourselves fall along this unevenness in society. I would venture to guess, without much hesitation, that we are physically in good health. We are fairly wealthy. We are intellectually, we consider ourselves to know what's going on. And spiritually, because we're here probably, or we follow Vedanta, we might think we are spiritually more advanced. And are there others who are not in that position? Why are they not here? Where are they? Do they come into consideration when we think about how we should act? These questions emerge immediately from this. So where do we fall, and what should we do? How should we act? So this is the question I think that I'll talk about the rest of this lecture. In this view, life in society was the expression of a potential according to one's own ideal. And Swamiji says very clearly, we shouldn't impose our ideal on others, but we should encourage others to express their own. So to this question of how should we act, let's say, who is this we that we're talking about? There'll be those who are poor, those who are oppressed, those who are ignorant, those who are, in our eyes, maybe not spiritually enlightened. And then there are others. And then there are those who can adjudicate, those who say that if there's a conflict, I'm authorized to decide. Having said that, then, consider this question. I'm expressing my potential. You're expressing your potential. But what if my potential's expression conflicts with your potential's expression? How do you decide that? Just to give you a spoiler at the end, I don't think that Swami Vivekananda gives any answers here. He gives principles that one must work out oneself. And in the rest of this, I'll try to indicate what I suspect these might be. But then that raises a further question. In this conflict of potential expressions of potential, who decides? Who adjudicates? Fortunately, this is even in modern social science and theories of justice. This is a very difficult question. But fortunately, from a practical perspective, it's not necessary to answer this in a transcendental sort of way, that is, in a way that applies to every single situation, because we do live in a society in which some of us are in a position to decide for others. Some of us are in a position to adjudicate. So that's the third group that I mentioned of the we. Swamiji outlined two possible paths in his essay on Karma Yoga. One was renunciation, detach yourself, walk on the razor's edge. And detachment would be absolute. And he tells a story in which a sannyasin runs away from a princess who tries to put a garland around his neck in order to claim him as a suitor. And the other is to live in the world, which implies duties and responsibilities. And these vary according to time and place, but there's a purpose behind it, which is self-sacrifice, which again Swamiji illustrates in this same essay by telling the story of birds, and which we'll get to in a minute as well. So we can already rule out two extremes just based on things that Swamiji has said outright. One is selfishness. Shall we just look out for ourselves and maximize what we want? He rules that out absolutely in several essays. And should we simply say, I'm here to help others? That too he rules out categorically and says, who are you to help others? So then where are we? Where does this leave us? There are some clues in which he says, first, reach a position in which you can help. If you have nothing to renounce, what is it that you will renounce? So maybe we could take that as a starting point. And recall this story of the birds. In short, this account of the birds occurs at the end of another story. So we'll just focus on the birds. A sannyasin and a king find themselves in the woods, all alone at night, lost. And there are birds in a tree under which they're staying that night. And there's a male bird, there's a female bird, and then there are children bird, there are baby bird, there are chicks. Seeing that the guests, the humans, are hungry, the bird first gets some twigs and then throws itself into the fire. The wife bird follows and the kids follow. Those for whom the meal was supposed to be decide not to eat it, and that teaches a lesson. It says, well, live your life in this spirit of self-sacrifice. So like all such principles, it's likely that we will understand them differently. There'll be inequality in how we can address it, how we understand it. But it deserves attention and action. To not consider it and to close up would be, in Swami Vivekananda's own words, like death. So he did not give, as I said before, the final answer to this, but pointed out that this should be something that we should think about very carefully, especially in light of the Vedantic idea, social justice, according to Swami Vivekananda, and the ideal of the divine in every person, in the poor, in the oppressed, and in the ignorant. That is all I have to offer today, to raise more questions than answers, but to point to a set of questions and possibly principles that could shape our thinking and action going forward. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Swami.
Happy New Year, 2015. January 1st, traditionally, is a day of reflection and resolution. It provides each of us a figurative, clean slate upon which we can revise and rewrite the script of our lives. This evening's talk will allow us to focus on what plans and goals we may want to make and nurture during this season of renewal. As you begin this new year, are you wondering what the coming year will hold for you? How are you planning to welcome it? Are you making preparations? What destiny will unfold before your eyes? Will it live up to your highest hopes and fulfill your deepest yearnings? Do you have a desire for change, a resolve to set a new course? Have you set new goals and intentions? Are you prepared to let bygones be bygones and take a new step forward? All day today, we've been gathered here together to celebrate and honor the majestic Swami Vivekananda. For a great new beginning, I propose we begin this new year with a special focus on him and his teachings. One of Swami Vivekananda's main teachings is, arise, awake, stop not till the goal is reached. But of what goal does he speak? Well, your New Year's goals and resolutions may be to lose weight, exercise more, stop smoking, maybe publish a book, or perhaps even become the CEO of a company. Swami Vivekananda is speaking of a much higher goal. According to Swami Vivekananda, the message of Vedanta consists in unfolding the potential divinity of man, developing an unshakable faith in oneself, manifesting absolute fearlessness of any kind, and attaining complete freedom of the spirit. To attain that total freedom, even while living, is the ultimate goal of human beings. Swami Vivekananda lived over 100 years ago, yet his words are like power capsules in our present day and can offer us a way to reach the ultimate goal. As his students, we look to him for something to imbibe, for guidance, to put to good use, and practice every day. He can offer us wisdom, focus, solutions, and he gives us something that elevates us intellectually, morally, and spiritually. Swami Vivekananda tells us, my ideal indeed can be put into a few words, and that is to preach unto mankind their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. He then asks, what is the goal of life? Is this world the goal of life? Nothing more? Are we to be just what we are? Nothing more? Is man a machine that runs smoothly without a hitch anywhere? Is enjoyment the goal of life? The infinite human soul can never be satisfied but by the infinite itself. The knowledge of God should be the goal of life. Everyone wants their life to be full of purpose. We are all looking for a way to live that's meaningful, dedicated, and full of wonder. We want a harmonious life with great friends, sweet pleasures, a feeling of abundance, and great wisdom, uninterrupted by loss. Everyone really does want all this. However, most of us look for meaning outside of ourselves. We think things are hiding somewhere else in the world, and we need to go out and hunt for them. We forget that we are the pivotal factor in our own life, that everyone already holds within themselves that which they are seeking. Swami Vivekananda says, stand up, be bold, be strong. Take the whole responsibility on your own shoulders and know that you are the creator of your destiny. All the strength and succor you want is within you. Therefore, make your own future. End of quote. Whatever we acquire in the outer world ultimately leaves us weak and feeble. But latching onto and practicing Swami Vivekananda's teachings makes us stronger day by day. Our lives become sweeter and happier. Swami Vivekananda says, hear day and night that you are the soul. Repeat it to yourselves till it enters into your very veins, till it tingles in every drop of blood, till it is in your flesh and bone. He also declared, what the world wants is character. The world is in need of those whose life is one burning love, selfless. That love will make every word tell like a thunderbolt. Bold words and bolder deeds are what we want. Awake, awake, great ones. End of quote. Swami Vivekananda dedicated his life to serving others. His main concern was to help us grow and evolve, to develop an all-round personality. He wanted us to have a strong body, strong mind, clear conscience, and spiritual consciousness. He wants us, and I quote, to live in the battle of life. Anyone can keep calm in a cave or when they're asleep. Stand in the whirl and madness of action and reach the center. If you have found the center, you cannot be moved. He also suggests, take up one idea, make that one idea your life. Think of it, dream of it, live on that idea, and just leave every other idea alone. This is the way to success. End of quote. However, the question remains, how can we apply these lofty teachings into our everyday life? Reading and discussing them is one thing, but molding our lives on these ideals can sometimes feel a bit daunting. The good news is we don't need to leave it to fate to decide what the coming year will hold for us. Swami Vivekananda's teachings will help us to make the best of each moment so that this and every year has focus, direction, and is wonder-filled. So how can we assimilate his teachings into our lives? feeling is the main secret. Feeling deeply about an idea for a considerable period of time will bring about a revolutionary transformation of our personality. We need to feel Swami Vivekananda's words against the background of our present personality, and with his help, assimilate his words into ourselves. We want to bring that blessing not only to ourselves, but those around us. For example, I receive a daily email quote of Swami Vivekananda's from the Boston Vedanta Center. I also read a daily quote from a calendar called Inspiration Eternal, published by the Ramakrishna Mission Ashrama, which focuses on his teachings. These readings begin my morning every day. I take a multivitamin for my body and then do daily readings for my soul. What a great way to start each day. As I read Swami Vivekananda's words, I can feel his energy and inspiration moving me to my core, setting my priorities, putting my mind in the right direction, and giving me a great boost. He affects me like no other. It is as if he is right there talking to me. His words course through my being. He has helped me in so many different situations, both in my personal and professional life. He melts away my little self and brings out the divinity. Swami Vivekananda exclaims, "The whole secret of existence is to have no fear. Never fear what will become of you. Depend on no one. Only the moment you reject help are you free." He again says, "If you are really my children, you will fear nothing. Stop at nothing. You will be like lions. My prayers and benedictions follow every step you take. Everything will come to you if you have faith." End of quote. He takes my hand and walks me through my day. At times, without his teachings, I would have crumbled. He gives me strength to carry on, to face anything that comes my way with grace and courage. To reach these ideals and reach for the ultimate goal, our seeking requires of us to put forth a sincere and constant effort. Swami Vivekananda declares, "The brave alone do great things, not the cowards. Know once and for all, you faithless ones, that I am in the hands of the Lord. So long as I am pure and his servant, not a hair on my head will be touched. Be brave, be brave. Human beings die but once. My disciples must not be cowards." End of quote. We must ask ourselves, how do we want to carry our lives? Do we know where we're going? Are we in touch with the spiritual side of ourselves and who we are? Do we know what our faith means to us? Do we have a daily practice? Being on a sacred journey relaxes our bodies and minds and gives us a new way of thinking, speaking, and being. The inward journey, then, becomes more important than the outer one. We learn to step back and look at a bigger picture. When we listen to Swami Vivekananda's holy words, we become filled with enthusiasm. If you trace the word enthusiasm back to its roots, you discover that it comes from the Greek enthusiasmos. The syllable en means in, within, or possessed of the inner Lord. When you are filled with enthusiasm, you are filled with the energy of God, with great power, with amazing grace. To be filled with enthusiasm means to give yourself completely to God and let God steer the wheel of your life. Swami Vivekananda exclaims, "Our lifeblood is spirituality. If it flows clear, if it flows strong and pure and vigorous, everything is right. Political, social, and other material defects, even poverty of the land, will be cured if that blood is pure." End of quote. Let's remember, everything that happens along the way on this sacred path is important to reaching our goal. As students of Vedanta and Swami Vivekananda, we are involved in an ongoing sadhana, an ongoing search for meaning, and we are seeking something deeper. Our human life is complex, and the teachings give us the clarity that we need. It's like Swami Vivekananda gives us a map for our journey and is a guide to the ultimate goal. He tells us, "My faith and hope rests in devotees like you. Understand my words in their true spirit and apply yourselves to work in their light." I have given you advice enough. Now put at least something in practice. Let the world see that your listening to me has been a success. End of quote. Swami Vivekananda has given us all that we need to help us and support our journey to the final goal. So are we ready to make it worth it that Swami Vivekananda so compassionately and unselfishly came to teach us? Are we ready for going from an ordinary to an extraordinary and powerful 2015? Will you open the door to your heart to allow his living words to pulsate through your body, heart, and soul, to transform your life towards the goal supreme? Swami Vivekananda says, "Don't look back. Go forward." Infinite energy, infinite enthusiasm, infinite clarity, and infinite patience. Then alone can great deeds be accomplished. End of quote. I would like to conclude my talk and give you some last words of his to take into your new year. He says, all power is within you. You can do anything and everything. Believe in that. Do not believe you are weak. All power is there. Stand up and express the divinity within you. Please don't let his works, words, inspirations, and teachings be a gift unopened. Embrace all he has to give you. In 2015, let us then move towards the ultimate goal. Let's stop not till the goal is reached. Let his teachings become who you are. Thank you.
Dear friends, we were privileged to listen to these very beautiful expositions of the wonderful ideas and great thoughts presented in the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda. The life and teaching is an important word here, and I want to specifically point it out here that in many people life here teachings in other direction, means you read their teachings, what they wrote or what they spoke, but it is not always that their own life conforms to them. It is they advise others, but doesn't mean that they live up to that themselves. Like that shirt, somebody has put on a nice T-shirt, and it read there, take my advice, I never use it. So it is, but with Swami Vivekananda, the life was teaching. The words were part of it. It came as a clear outburst of his awareness and his life. It was all together. It is very sincerely presented. Whether he spoke or not, his actions gave exactly the same message as his speech would have given. So therefore, we are looking at his message, and we saw from dear Atul's presentation, one thing I liked very much, that he presented that there are questions I am presenting, that is how he concluded, that here are the questions, not answers as such. And this is an important thing, friends, that first thing is that the answers are actually, they evolve in individual as we ponder over the questions. It is somebody giving me the answer, that is in some minor worldly matters, that certainly is true. That I asked somebody that which way do I go to Boston, and that person gave me the directions. That is the answer. That was well, a good answer. That I had a question, that person provided an answer. But there are questions which are far more profound, where somebody else's words can only inspire an answer which has to evolve in us. It is like somebody sowing a seed, and then the tree has to evolve from it. So the question becomes actually a seed, and then the answer grows in our mind, it is an evolving process, and each person has to really bring out that answer, that awareness. It is always a matter seen as a conflicting thing that, as he brought it out, that individual potentials, we should manifest our potentials, but what? If the potential manifestation of the potential of A clashes with the manifestation of potential of B, then what is to be done in that case? For the sociologist, this has been a matter of thought since aeons. The conflict between the individual interest and the community or the social interest. It is how to reconcile these. There are, of course, extreme theories of total socialization, that society will govern the individual's life in every respect. And then there is the free scope of individualism, that, well, whatever the individual wants to do, let that individual do everything. Society has no business in dictating that. So that is a free individualism. And both, of course, they lead to their that consequences, problematic consequences. And then there are different solutions of intermediate mixing up of these two. It is true that historically speaking, the societies have been moving in between these extremes. The matter of social justice, therefore, also differs from various segments, spatial segments as well as the temporal segments of society. Like something in the past, one idea of social justice. In the same land, in the kind of same society, as the time evolves, those ideas become different. Just we all know, it wasn't too long ago that to kill a Native American in United States wasn't considered as a big crime. Now it is, but there was a time when it was not considered as a big crime. So the things change. The social understanding changes. It expands, or at least let us admit that it gets a different perspective. Also, we see some ideas of justice in one place are not really the same as in other place. In one country, or even in given one country in different states, there is a little difference in these respects. So the idea of social justice is subject to change according to the how the different circumstances have evolved there, and how the groups which have major or power, how they have manipulated those. So therefore, we see that a person, when tries to think going beyond these as to what is right and what is not right, and refers to deeper and deeper levels of the real natural conscience, then the thoughts become different. Then the ideas given by a particular social structure, they need to be changed. At least that person feels that I need to change it in my life. Whether society accepts it or not is different. And they change their life to accommodate everything that their own conscience can make them comfortable with. Like their conscience would say that hurting any person is not right, not justified. I shouldn't have the intention of hurting any person. And one therefore does not, go to hurt even somebody who is an enemy. And these people set a different norm of morality because of their much broader outlook. They obliterate these differences in their mind that, okay, this person does not belong to my group, so stealing from that person is okay, depriving that person is okay. These great souls, we call them great because their extent of feeling is very big. And therefore, like Jesus proclaimed, that you heard that love your friends and hate your enemies. But I tell unto you that learn to love your friends. You must love your enemies too. Learn to love your enemies. That is a great advancement, loving your enemies. And this is where the person becomes really influential. When that person puts these things into practice, becomes a source of energy, inspiration. And then this riddle between the social good and my individual good, a conflict between these starts getting resolved. Conflicts, are like the two sides of a road. A road will have to have two sides, left side, right side. So this is conflict, but then the road makes you go forward, that you have a destination and destination needs to be reached and by a road, and road will always have two sides. So these conflicts need not be, that resolved at every stage, but proceed ahead, and then when as you reach the destination, the conflict will get resolved. You don't have to worry about this side of the road or that side of the road. This idea of good of the society and good of the individual has been very beautifully resolved in Swami Vivekananda's message given in Karma Yoga book as well as at many other places, that serve as a means. Serving others is a means of achieving the individual spiritual progress. See how both things get done in this, that you are aware of the needs of the society and try to fulfill them. And by doing that, what is happening without your being conscious of it at many times is that your limited body-bound consciousness starts expanding. You start seeing the same being everywhere gradually. Just as a body-bound person sees the same person, same one being, same I, in left hand as well as in right hand. Therefore, you don't see the left hand coming in conflict with the right hand. It is my left hand never becomes jealous if my right hand is holding the money. Right hand gets to hold, I am not. So it is because that feeling, that awareness of one is there in both the hands. Now think of this, that by feeling that the I here is same as I in Pam, as I in Atul, as I in everyone, the I in all microbes that are all around, same I in everyone. Now the situation changes completely. Just as there will be a spontaneous service rendered say to my left hand, if it is hurt, my right hand will apply balm to it spontaneously without claiming any special reward for it. Hey, I am doing big service to you. No. Similarly, this idea of service will become spontaneous. And this is, mutually working. I mean, the more I go to serve others, the more this expansion of the self will occur. It is therefore a great means of achieving the individual liberation as well as the idea, the social service through that. Swami Vivekananda mentions that, well, the divisions and distinctions in the society have to be there. But the privileges have to go. That the divisions like caste or groups, it is very natural that people would be formed into different groups. But that doesn't mean that one group has to have privileges over others. To try to remove distinctions is impossible. Everything will be distinct. That is how there is multiplicity. Otherwise, there is just oneness. But where would be the oneness then? The distinctions will be there, but the oneness will be in the same privileges to everyone. That is where the idea of justice, the idea of democracy comes in, that democracy gives one vote to everyone. Doesn't matter whether somebody is short or tall. Doesn't matter whether somebody is highly educated or not educated at all. Everybody is same, treated same there. So that is, the core of sameness. We have lot of privileges, okay. There will be, that naturally our requirements will be different. Somebody we may need more food, somebody may need less food. But then this idea of, one being in all different bodies, that will bring us to this sameness. We will look different, but yet feel that one connection in and through all as we expand our awareness through service. So this becomes then a very practical ideal. It is the highest ideal, and at the same time, it is most practical ideal. And that is why that brings me to dear Pam's talk. She mentioned that this is the new year, we have to have goal. And what is the most tangible goal? She very clearly said that, well, these little objectives, they cannot be called goals. It is like I want to lose my weight. Yes, that is certainly an intermediate thing that one should be doing, but that cannot be called as the goal of life, you see. So it is, yes, now you weighed, say, 180 pounds, now you weigh 150 pounds, very good. But what next now? It is, the goal is, therefore, as Swami Vivekananda presents, that manifestation of the divinity, the goal. And that goal really brings all these human aspirations forward. This is the practical goal. I like the explanation of enthusiasm she gave. Wonderful, I had never heard it before. Yes, let us fill ourselves with this enthusiasm, that this spirit of divinity. Yes, that we can actually achieve it. In fact, that is the only thing really achievable that can satisfy us, manifestation of divinity in us. All other things will fall short of bringing complete satisfaction in our life. They all will end in the what next. But this realization of divinity will finally answer all questions. And this is globally true in all societies, in all countries. Swami Vivekananda was a real global personality. Global, not in the sense that he traveled many countries, saw many things, and wrote about many different cultures and so forth. He was global in the sense he could see through the eyes of different people in different countries in different times without getting attached to one culture or one country, one particular community, one particular mindset. I feel that that was a really great thing to learn. That while I understand things from a culture, a background that I come from, I completely misjudge, therefore, people who come from other places, other cultures. This should not happen. This prevents us from being global. Swami Vivekananda, if when we read his writings or his lectures, in the books, it is wonderful to see that how he presents a perspective without getting attached to one culture alone. Various different cultures and different places, the historic evolution of various different social, economic, religious systems all become alive in his speeches in such a manner that all different things he presents, showing the goal also, showing the common thread which is to be caught. That common thread is the common ultimate goal of everyone. There lies the ultimate unity, and there lies the ultimate answer to these questions. Each of us have to make this answer evolve in oneself. The answers have to come out from us. My answer is not going to satisfy, say, Teresa, and Teresa's answer is not going to satisfy me, just as her eating food is not going to remove my hunger. So the questions are to be resolved individually. Let us fill today our hearts with this enthusiasm and assurance that yes, we will be able to get to these answers, and let us march towards that. As Pam concluded, let us march towards that goal and stop not till the goal is reached. Thank you, friends.